We have some incredibly exciting titles this time. Death Stranding, Slime Rancher 2, Early Access, Deathloop, Fallout 76, Metal Hellsinger, and Rollerdrome, just to name a few. I've done it. I tested 300 games on the Ryzen 5600G, 40 just for this video. I was able to release this video precisely on the channel's first anniversary. For this 5-part series, I recorded hundreds of gigabytes of footage, downloaded multiple terabytes of games, and typed around 20,000 words. It would take you over 2 hours if you want to watch all 5 parts back to back, but I highly recommend you do that. It'll make the algorithm and me really happy. Thank you guys for your support. The publishers that provide me access to their awesome games, and those publishers that provide me access to not so awesome games. Although this time, most games were awesome. These games here were provided for the purpose of being featured in this video. But I didn't receive any compensation except for the Steam keys. All my statements are my own opinion. I liked Slime Rancher a lot when I tried it in episode 2 of this series. It was one of those games I thoroughly tested. So I was excited when the developer Monomi granted me a key for Slime Rancher 2. The game is in early access, but in an excellent state already. Visually, they have upped the game a couple of notches. Slime Rancher 2 is hard to run, but it looks great, even on the low graphics settings. I recorded a 33 FPS average at 900p that experienced very few frame pacing issues. Usually, 30 FPS isn't something to celebrate in a first-person game, but Slime Rancher isn't an FPS. It's a chill, base building and exploration game. Everything Monomi did great in the first game, they made it even better in this one. So if you liked the first one, this one is an improvement. However, I feel it's a bit too slow to get around the map, and that problem also exists in the first game. I'd like to see an option to reduce the stamina regeneration delay, either through an early upgrades or as a game setting. Having access to teleportation earlier and in more places would also be nice. Overall, it's a solid game that runs well enough, but you can expect that to get better. It's on Steam and on Xbox Game Pass, so check it out. Private Division, the publisher, provided a Steam key for Rollerdrome. Their Steam system recommendations mention AMD Radeon Vega 8 graphics. The Ryzen 5600G has Vega 7 graphics. However, based on my testing, I assume they're referring to an earlier generation of Vega 8 GPUs. Still, you have to commend them on even listing APU graphics, but they should be more precise about it. At 1080p high settings, I got around 120 FPS on average, with 1% low of 84 and a 0.1% low of 59. It's nice that we can take advantage of a 120Hz FreeSync panel on an iGPU. I tested keyboard and mouse as well as my Xbox controller. My default preference is keyboard and mouse, but I think the controller works well. Keyboard and mouse is perfectly playable, but I had to remap some keys. Rollerdrome is a lot of fun and I played through the first few levels. I'm a sucker for games that give you a fast-paced, skill-based gameplay loop. It's not just about beating the game, it's about beating it as hard as possible while looking cool. I also tested on Linux, which worked without any issues. So I guess it's a fantastic experience on Steam Deck. You'll see Rollerdrome again on my channel, if you are subscribed. You are subscribed, right? Tinykin might be the game I played the most in this roundup. I played through the entire game, which I tried to avoid in making these videos. It took about 4 hours to beat, but I spent extra time trying to find some secrets. Tinykin is a platformer featuring non-linear levels in an exciting setting. The graphics are cute and performant, but you must limit the frame rate to a fixed value because camera sensitivity is tied to the frame rate. So if you're playing with a variable refresh rate, you're playing with variable camera sensitivity. The 5600G can hold 60 FPS with no problem, so I recommend you either resync or limit your FPS with Afterburner or AMD Radeon Chill. I reported this issue to the developers but couldn't get an acknowledgement or response. I hope they can address this, but still I can recommend Tinykin. Bethesda just released an expansion, the Pitt for Fallout 76, and they provided a game key to me for that reason. I knew I wouldn't make it until the actual expansion content, but I can't imagine Bethesda expected a new player to do so. Fallout 76 is a huge game. My assessment will focus on the new player experience and performance. So let's talk performance. First, I tried to play at 1080p using low settings, but we struggled to hold on to 30 FPS. It wasn't unplayable, but it didn't feel like that was the optimal way to go about it. Ultimately, I found that medium preset at 720p is best, but unfortunately they haven't implemented a dynamic resolution scaler. A steady 40 FPS target would work great for us, especially on a FreeSync display. Alternatively, or additionally, FSR 2.0 would also be a great help. I hadn't played Fallout 76 before, but I've played Fallout 4. I didn't finish it, yet I spent a reasonable amount of time playing it and analyzing its performance, so I'm familiar with the overall setting, but don't know much about the overarching lore. During my few hours of gameplay, I got the impression that Fallout 76 is very sandboxy, more so than Fallout 4 or Skyrim. The first questline is designed to make you run all over the place and explore the map. Fallout 76 doesn't force a lot of story on you right away. It wants you to explore and learn how to use your camp, which you are free to put down where you want, and you can build whatever you like and need. At some point, some event took place and I met other players, all of whom were very high level. There were some event objectives and I tried to participate, but to be completely honest, I didn't understand how it worked. But I think we accomplished the objective and I got some rewards. If you are interested in Fallout 76, check out a review by someone familiar with the game's current state after the Pitt expansion. I had a positive experience. The game's visual performance was decent on the iGPU, they didn't encounter any annoying bugs. One more piece of advice. When you end up trying the game, don't go AFK during character creation after having tinkered around for 30 minutes. It will lock you out and you will lose your character. Collapsed has horrible controls, annoying music, and utterly unintuitive destruction physics. I don't know why this is a PC game. It looks and plays like a mobile game. On the positive side, it also ran on Linux and it's possible to turn the music off. Or better yet, close the game. Corridor Sigma tries to be an FPS and its levels are just mazes. Every floor and wall looks the same. The game has at least 18 levels. That's as far as I got just running for the exit marker on each map. The enemies will rarely manage to kill you, and it's not fun to shoot back. Human Diaspora seems to force VSync and has enormous input lag. The 5600G performance was abysmal, but I tested this with a way faster GPU and input lag persisted. That's unacceptable for an FPS, and it's sad because the game looks fantastic and is made with open source tools, which I like. Captain Bones is a survival exploration game with a pirate theme, and as far as I know, this is a single dev project. Captain Bones is in early access, yet it's available on Steam. The game features cartoonish graphics but without black outlines. The water looks super nice, and the island atmosphere is fantastic. The intense greens with the occasional red accent make it look lively, yet somehow lonely and beg you to explore. The gameplay was cookie cutter, however I found the fishing minigame quite excellent and didn't expect that mechanic when I got the quest. Performance wasn't bad for the looks I got. I could have turned the settings down, but I was happily playing at 30 FPS this slow-paced third-person game. I found the controls a bit clunky at times and the game needs some polish, but that's why it's in early access. If you'd like to try it, there's a free demo on Steam. The Hive excited me because we don't get many RTS games these days. I didn't know what to expect from this title at all. After playing for about 30 minutes, I can say that a lot of stuff works, but the game could use some more polish, especially regarding the tutorial. I would have loved to see some objective markers on the minimap and some more direction about resource collection. I figured out how it works, and it does work, but someone new to PC gaming or even RTS games may have gotten stuck and abandoned the game. Performance was alright at 1080p, and I'd like to point out that the game uses OpenGL, not Vulkan or DirectX. We don't see that often these days. Neko Journey looks okay and runs fine. but the platforming gameplay is bland at best and the mechanics and controls are fiddly. When the characters talk, they make an annoying loop noise while the game displays text with tons of mistakes. Trailout can be a nice looking game, but doesn't scale down well to lower settings and resolutions. The highest anti-aliasing option is mandatory, otherwise the game looks horrible at any res. To the devs' credit, they pre-selected the highest AA option even for the low graphics preset. Unfortunately, Trailout may just be a bit too hard to run on Ryzen 5600G with its Vega 7 graphics. What I liked was the soundtrack, it's fantastic, and overall I got some Wreckfest vibes from Trailout. If you're interested in this game, put it on your wish list and revisit it when you get a graphics card upgrade. One More Dungeon 2 is a roguelike featuring cute and performed graphics. The setting is creative. You're a prisoner to a Snail King and need to earn your freedom by killing a monster. So you fight your way through dungeons. At least early on, fighting is relatively simple. Melee combat revolves around proper spacing. You weave in and out to hit enemies and avoid getting hit. I like the art style and how the developer translated that into a well-performing game. I played the game at 1080p on the high settings, but if you want to hit 60 FPS, you could do so by lowering the settings or resolution a bit. I love the toggleable half-transparent minimap overlay. That's a super handy feature done in a way that's neither intrusive nor interrupts gameplay. Incision is another simple FPS, and I like those. Recently we've looked at Postal Brain Damaged, also published by Hyperstrange. However, Incision is in early access, so keep that in mind. I particularly like that all these boomer shooty games put an exciting twist in the formula. This time in Incision, the theme is gory, dark and horror. I also like the soundtrack, it's gloomy. Fundamentally, the performance was excellent on Ryzen 5600G and we can only expect that to get better until the full release. However, it's interesting, we seem to be CPU limited while rendering on our iGPU. I didn't come across any bugs, at least I wouldn't have noticed. So, if, like I, you are a lover of fast, no-nonsense FPS games, check this out on Steam. In Grid Force, Mask of the Goddess, you move your character along a grid, almost like a chess piece. You can attack, dodge and reflect. You can also instantly swap your active character for another team member. I like this gameplay and haven't played a game like it before. It feels old school in a good way. The tight and snappy controls are essential for this game. The game is low spec friendly by design. The high frame rate helps keep our input latency down and the game feels responsive. I like almost everything about Grid Force. It's a game I can see myself playing more when I get a handheld PC. I think developers Dreamlight Studio missed an opportunity to have more lines voiced, but their voiceover artist is fantastic. Let me give you some examples.
And then it started again. All because of the grid. Grid conquered.
Not bad, huh? There's a demo version available on Steam, so you can try it for free. I couldn't get the performance overlay to work in Alien vs Predator, a 2010 game published by Sega, but I could still record performance. On maxed out settings, the indoor levels still look respectable, but the outdoor levels, the Predator model and animation and the number of assets give the game's age away. In a previous episode we tested Aragami 2. This is Aragami, a game from 2016. If memory serves correctly, the second game ran better than the first, but I could be wrong. Still, I like the cartoonish graphics and the stealth gameplay is fun because it also takes some skill to execute a plan of attack. Call of Juarez, Gunslinger is a game I had heard of, but I had never played it, so I was thrilled to have gotten a key for it in a game bundle I recently bought. It's one of those Ryzen 5600G sweet spot games. It's about 10 years old, looks nice for its time and performs well on a Vega 7. Some other games that stick in this category are the 2013 Tomb Raider, Dishonored, the Bioshock remasters, Thief, Batman Arkham City, Skyrim and the Metro Redux games. DC League of Super Pets, The Adventures of Krypto and Ace is a game you can find on Xbox Game Pass. or maybe in a parent's Steam library who really needed some peace and quiet. The game ran perfectly fine at its locked frame rate, but by the time you can correctly operate a spoon, you'll find the gameplay this has to offer coma-inducing. Deathloop is one of the newer, harder to run games, but this has FSR 2.0, which looks passable even on the performance setting at 1080p. I mean, it's noticeably low res, but it's not horrible. It was good enough to keep playing for longer than I needed to get this footage and stats. If you want to see how this does on an overclocked Ryzen 5600G, check out my overclock compilation video. I'll put up a card here and link in the description. Stranding is also a newish game, but I was impressed with how nice it looked on the low settings I had to dial in, especially during the cutscenes, which is essential because there are so many cutscenes. The game is interesting, but I'm not fond of games that frequently take away camera control, and Stranding constantly does it. That made it feel like the gameplay was a chore I had to do to get to the next part of the movie. But don't get me wrong, I didn't dislike the gameplay. I liked the gameplay, but then it traps in a 15 minutes cutscene. So first, I'm annoyed because I want to play on, and then by the end of the cutscene, I just want to get to the next one because it was awesome. But now I have to go and run around. Another Death Stranding test can be found on my overclock compilation video. Starting with the character creation screen and the nicely voiced intro, I was getting excited about trying the game. But as soon as I met Merlin, who wasn't voiced, my excitement dropped dead. But maybe the gameplay is so good it will make up for it, I hear you say. No, it doesn't. Yes, that's it. Run, press one button, repeat. If the game has a redeeming quality, it's the art style, and it looks pretty nice for the performance you're getting, so I can't fault it for that. Dubdash is fun, simple and cheap. Unfortunately, the overlay didn't work here, but I could still gather the stats. I will level with you guys. When you make these videos, and you need to hit the next round number of games tested, sometimes you need to include a few filler games. This is one of them. I usually avoid testing MMO games because some think it can justify spending hundreds of hours on it to progress to some late game content. I make an exception for Guild Wars 2, because it's a solid game and I still sometimes play Guild Wars 1. This hits that nostalgic spot. When making this video, I finally linked my Guild Wars 1 account to Guild Wars 2, which was almost exactly 10 years overdue. The game did a great job and I clicked the auto detect best settings button. I only had to up the textures and everything else was to my liking. I didn't understand how to progress the game in Hello Neighbor, so if any of you could give me a hint, I would appreciate that. I ran around the house for a while and got caught several times. Then I gave up. The game wasn't compatible with my overlay, but the stats collected indicate that it's locked to 30 FPS. I love this game's name, it's called Immortal Redneck. It was free to claim on GOG, but I noticed that too late to make a community post about it. When you find a game with a name like that, you know it will be a hilariously silly setting. And this didn't disappoint. I got the game to run a fair frame rate and enjoyed my time. Insurmountable was a free giveaway on Epic a couple of months back, so I included it. Some of you may have it sitting in your library, wondering whether it's worth downloading. The gameplay is point and click, so a high frame rate isn't required here. You can stick all the performance you have into making the game look nicer. I can't tell you whether the gameplay is worth it, I haven't played it for more than 3 minutes. Jotun, like Insurmountable, was free on Epic at one point. I was pleasantly surprised by its simplicity. You can move and whack stuff with your axe, but you're pretty much left to figure out everything else yourself. Of course, the performance was excellent and I liked the voiceover in the game's intro. I got this fun little game from some bundle. I'm unsure whether it was from Fanatical or Humble Bundle. It's called Let Them Come and you shoot aliens from a fixed position. You only aim the gun and if enemies get close you can whack them with your melee weapon. Every time you die, you get to upgrade your gear. Performance was excellent, no complaints here. I will be honest, I want to test this in the first episode of this series, but then and every subsequent time I looked at the 100GB download and postponed it to the following video. But since this is the last regular installment in the series, I had no choice but to include it this time. The performance wasn't great nor horrible, it was playable and enjoyable. Interestingly, sometimes performance was worse during cutscenes than during gameplay. Is MechWarrior still one of those games the hardcore fans play using a joystick? That used to be the holy grail, like 20 years ago. A viewer explicitly requested MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, and since the game was available on Xbox Game Pass, I was happy to test it. I got the game to run at around 30 FPS, and I think the third person view is preferable, but there's some room for tinkering with the settings. We just got unlucky with this video's poorly performing car games. Forza Horizon 4 and 5 ran surprisingly well, but not all car games do, as demonstrated by Need for Speed Heat and Trailout this time. It wasn't unplayable, it still looked decent and the frame rate was smooth with 30 or better. It just wouldn't be my first recommendation for someone looking for a racing game they want to play on a 5600G. Puppy Playtime was popular for about 1 or 2 weeks and all the big streamers were playing it. I hadn't watched any of those videos, so this was an excellent excuse to check it out. But as you can see, it's one of the worst performing games today. In fact, it's harder to run than Cyberpunk. If you must try it yourself, Chapter 1 is free on Steam. Another game that should have stayed mobile only, Pumped BMX Pro. It's not often a tutorial makes me quit right away, but this was beyond rage-inducing. I have a spare game key for this, so if you are having a little bit too good a day, I'm happy to give you the key. Roman, a long-term supporter of the channel, gave me a key for Serious Sam HD. Thanks, Roman. Again, my overlay doesn't like some old games. It might be a 32-bit executable thing, but I could still collect the stats and performance was excellent. However, the game looks like it could really use some anti-aliasing, or maybe downsampling. Savage Steel is probably my #1 new game. It's either this or Metal Hellsinger. Savage Steel is a voxel-based environment, it's destructible and I love bullet time shooting. You can also double jump, leap and wall run, and of course, you can chain all of those together. I turned the settings down more than was necessary, but I like high FPS and low latency in my FPS games. This is embarrassing. I got to this point in my script and noticed that I forgot to include Metal Hellsinger. It's one of my favorite new games, but it's hard to run on stock settings on a Ryzen 5600G. On my overclocked setup, I was able to get around 60 FPS. Still, this game is fantastic. I love fast-paced games and I love metal. Their single lineup is sick. They got Alyssa from Arch Enemy and formerly the Agonist, and she also does clean vocals, so you might want to check out the OST. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a review key for this game. I only have access to it on Game Pass, but this is a game I will add to my Steam library, sooner rather than later. I got Spirit of the North free on Epic, so I tried it. Unfortunately, there's a lot wrong with it. First, Arctic foxes aren't red, their fur is white. A red fox would starve in the snowy lands. Second, foxes don't bark as dogs do, their vocalization is more laugh-like. I could let that slide as artistic choices. What I can't ignore is the bland gameplay. It's like the Death Stranding gameplay, but without the gameplay. Submerged Hidden Depths is another one I got free on Epic, and to my surprise, I kind of ended up liking it. At least better than the other free Epic games in this video. The game was mysterious, the graphics were nice, and the performance was good. Give this a shot if you claimed it on Epic and want to play something laid back and chill. The Flame in the Flood was a joy on a Vega 7. I ran it at 1080p maxed out settings, got over 40 FPS on average, and rock solid 1% lows. I'd like to tell you more about my experience with this game, but we don't have time for that. Okay, That was a lie. I played this for no more than 5 minutes. I know nothing about it. I didn't know how popular XCOM 2 was, so I checked on Steam charts and XCOM 2 was precisely on rank 200. Slightly trailing other games we've tested, for example Guild Wars 2, American Truck Simulator, Paladins, and Mortal Kombat 11. And this is it. XCOM 2 is game number 300 on a Ryzen 5600G testing series. This is the last massive episode in the series, but I have some ideas for monthly videos featuring mini reviews and performance tests. More like the first sponsored part in this video. I will also make optimization videos for big games like Starfield and Legacy of Hogwarts on a Ryzen 5600G. Let me know what you guys liked about this series and what I could have done better. Have a great day and see you soon. Lots of fun, exciting content ahead. I hope.